It's time for some fun stuff. Come on, you know it's fun when you get the brand new IP phone, you haven't seen it before, you pull it out of the wrapper and you smell it because it's got that new plasticky smell, and you're like, what can this thing do? It's kind of like a new widget to play with. Well, that's what we're going to talk about here is the different models of phones that you have, mainly what to look for when you're buying the phones. Now, in previous editions of CIPT, I would literally spend 45 minutes, I kid you not, unpacking each one of the IP phones and what it had and support and all that. And literally, when I would finish that 45-minute nugget, the phones that I talked about in the first 10 minutes of the 45 minutes would already be out of date and replaced. And I'm like, good grief, this stuff moves fast. So I've decided a different approach. I'm not going to talk about specific models as much as I am series and just what to look at, where to go. I'd rather show you where to go and what to look for than say, oh, well, this is this model, and then tomorrow it's out of date. So we're going to go to the Cisco website, Voice and Unified Communications, hit the View All Products, and down here you will see right here, the different models of phone. This is kind of the land of love when we get to IP phones. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is over here on the left-hand side. You see all these small business phones. Mentally in your mind, unless you got a cool magic marker like me, draw a line over here to these guys. The UC500, UC300, cool little boxes. I mean, they're swouters, they're switches, they're router, they're wireless access points, they're voicemail, they're call manager express. I mean, they've got it. It's like it's all there. All I want for Christmas is a UC500, but that's not what we're here to talk about. That is a completely different product line. What we are looking at is over here on the right hand side. We see these mainline series of phones. I would say the biggest one that you'll probably be focusing on is that 7900 series. If I click on that, I'm taken to this page, which gives me a kind of a visual of what these phones look like. But down here is a list of all the models that are out there. I would say the number one business grade phone that I see all the time, Cisco 7941 and 7961. Let me grab a picture of this phone. You can see that this phone is your standard phone. You've got the LCD display. In the back has a built-in switch, has a very high quality speakerphone, has a backlight on the display. I mean, they give you the laundry list of what's included. But the big thing that you're after is this two-line deal. You see right here on the right-hand side, the line buttons. You've got line 1 and line 2. That's good for just about all of your normal users. Now, the Cisco 7961 is the same, and I would say again another mainline phone is the same thing, but you can see on the right hand side there, I don't know why I have to circle it there, is the 6 lines that people can use. So these can be line buttons, they can be speed dial buttons, they can be feature buttons. Down at the bottom, that's primarily where you're going to get most of your features, like the really close as hold, end call, transfer, more. You get all your features down there. But these are, I would say, what you see on most people's desktops. The big thing that I want to warn you about, and I don't know why I feel this coming, is, hang on, turn off this pen, is the gigabit Ethernet factor. See, 7961G, 7941G, that does not mean gigabit Ethernet. You see these guys right here, GE. I can totally see this haunting a bunch of people where they go out and spend a fortune. I mean, these phones are somewhere between $100 and $200, depending on your discount level per phone, but spending a fortune on these guys and not realizing they're not gigabit Ethernet. So when the rest of the world is like, okay, gigabit Ethernet is now there, like most organizations are using it, we've got all these phones. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, remember, inside of these phones are built-in switches, so we only have to run one set of network cabling to the cubicle. So inside the cubicle, we have the computer that daisy chains from there. If you locked in to one of those guys, the G instead of the GE, gigabit Ethernet, then you're stuck on 100 megabits per second until you upgrade your whole phone structure. So just be careful. I'd hate to see you lock into a phone and then you're like, oh man, our infrastructure is stuck at 100 megabits per second. But I would encourage you to just start looking through these different models. Take a look. I mean, as you stay within the same series, like 794X, 6X, it's the same thing. Like you got gigabit Ethernet, you move up to the 42, you've got a better resolution display, you've got wideband audio, so you actually go above the 64K normal phone call conversations, you get like HD audio. I mean, they really do sound good. And then you go to the 45 and you get a color screen to where you can get some fancy XML applications. They all support XML applications, but I mean, think about things like a hotel, right? To where you can have an application where somebody can order room service from their phone and they see that steaming plate of spaghetti and meatballs. You know, it's like, ooh, that. You can tell I have 4 kids that are 5 years old and under, right? Spaghetti and meatballs is like, ooh, that's a delicacy. And then, so you just move up. It's 60 series. It's like same thing, 6 lines. Same thing, same thing. You moved into the 70 series. You're now up to 8 lines, and you got a touch screen display. You'll never really use it, but it's definitely a cool, like, ooh, look at that. To where bigger display, you move into the 71, and you've got gigabit Ethernet, a higher resolution display. So it's just, I mean, think of these. Okay, these are the standard, right? 7900 series phones. Let's drop back. They have some below it. They have, for instance, the 6900 series. And you can, like, as soon as you click on that, you're like, for the budget eco-conscious individual. I mean, obviously this guy's happy. He's got these phones, and he's like, I saved some money, so good for him. But we usually, like, as technicians, we're like, oh man, I want the better phone. So this 8900 series goes above and beyond. They spent so much money on these phones, they couldn't get a high quality recording like they could on the others. But man, I'm feeling weird today. So these phones, I mean, you're up to a better looking display. Some of them have integrated video to where you can now start doing video calling from the phones. Think of this as like the budget conscious cool phone. Like this is an amazing phone, but we couldn't go all the way because all the way is the 9900 series. This is like, 2 models of this phone currently to this day. And this is where, I mean, you can see it's everything. It's touchscreen. It's got USB ports on there for where you can attach USB headsets, high resolution, high def video. I mean, this man is Kirk. He's talking in my head right now. Kirk is excited about these phones. I'm like, come on, Kirk. Like, if I would be like you'd be like, you gotta get one of these phones, man. I mean, they really are amazing. I mean, again, I hate diving into all the specific features because the minute I do, it's out of date because literally they just keep coming out with better and better phones. You really just need to look at this list and say, okay, likely it's going to be a mix of entry-level, like single-line phones and your standard 7900 series phones, and then a couple advanced phones for, the conference room, executive office, you got to show off in the lobby, that kind of thing. Last thing is the specialty devices. I would break this into a few categories. One is the ATA devices. These are little boxes, like you'll find the ATA 186, 188, and beyond, to where you have a box that takes an incoming switch port and adapts it to 2 FXS ports. If I could write FXS like that, to where I can plug in a fax machine, I can plug in an analog phone, maybe sitting in an elevator. So this is your way of adapting the legacy voice world, old analog devices, into the voice over IP system. Literally, it bridges them in. You can then assign them an extension. I even have one of these at my home, to where I've got the ATA device, I have a cordless phone plugged into it, and that converts it to a voice over IP device because I just don't have I want to say don't have, but don't want to spend the money on a wireless voice over IP phone because they're kind of pricey. You have things like VT Advantage. And what VT Advantage is if you have one of these phones, say that's a 7965, just looking at the buttons and the fact that it's color, but you want to add video telephony. That's what that is. It's a specialized USB camera that sits on your monitor. It's one of those ones that mounts right on top. You've got the little circle right there, and it links with your phone. It literally communicates with your phone so that when you lift the handset and call somebody else who has video telephony capabilities, the video automatically comes up and synchronizes. Now it's on the screen of your computer, it's not on the phone, but it synchronizes itself so you're not like a bad dub on a movie with your mouth and your words not matching. That's annoying. And the last one I would say is those little what do you call those guys? The thing that sits on the conference room, the conference phones, right? The beautiful rendition, yes? To where they look like little spaceships. They're designed by Polycom, and Cisco did partner with Polycom. They have their own little conference phones. There are other specialty devices, but between all these, plus the phones that we discuss, you should have everything that you need to build your enterprise. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.